Well, howdy there, stranger. I'm Jordy.
And I'm Brad.
And welcome back to Beers with Queers, the true crime podcast where I research a case and Brad here, and potentially you guys.
Don't know a damn thing about it. Except this week, I do. That's right, it's a Brad episode just in time for Christmas. And it's a true crime episode and a history episode.
I also think this will be our last episode of 2024, so what a great way to ring out the year with a Brad episode.
So like I said, this episode will be a true crime story, and it's a sad one, but it's also going to be a history lesson because we like to do a queer history lesson when we can. So it's kind of a combo of both, and one that, I might actually get emotional for. So just be prepared. Just be prepared.
We love a good emotional Brad moment. It's happened several times on the podcast, and every time it does happen, people do reach out and they're like, I felt so touched. I love how passionate you guys are, especially Brad when he's talking about certain things. And so I think that adds another layer than just simply talking about the case. You are feeling emotions while talking about it.
I'm a very empathetic individual, and this case actually makes me think of things in my life. And so I can already feel it. So just be ready. Just warning you in advance.
So for your weekday commute to work, you might want to get a tissue ready or that McDonald's napkin sitting in your glove compartment, because I'm excited to hear what you got for us.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just kick it off. Well, actually, first I want to say this was going to be the episode right before Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas, and I hope they're actually looking forward to it. And for all of those out there that are not looking forward to Christmas, just let you know you're in my thoughts, because I'm kind of one of those people that's really not looking forward to Christmas either.
And also, Christmas can be a very complicated time, especially for queer people. So, if your family isn't as accepting or you can't go home for the holidays, thank you for spending it with us. Know that people care, people love you, and we will get through the holidays together and come out better people on the other side. So, Christmas is a very complicated time. And so thank you guys so much for choosing to spend it with us. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. And also, I just want to throw in real quick, I think it was, what is today, the 22nd? So 3 days ago, actually marked the 2-year anniversary of when we first launched the very first episode of Beers with Queers. And I'm proud to say we have not missed a single week in 2 years.
And that's impressive for us because we both have ADHD extremely bad.
And it's not just on top of that, it's also not even I feel like it's a duty to keep doing it, like it is, but at the same time, I love doing the podcast. I've learned so much from researching cases and queer history. Hopefully you guys have learned a thing or two along the way too. And I get so excited every episode where we can bring you guys awareness to a case that has been long forgotten or a piece of queer history that I'm like, I've never heard this before. And so it makes me very giddy to be able to bring that information to you guys, possibly for the first time. So thank you guys so much for sticking with us for 2 years, and here's to 2 more. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and as Jordy was saying, I say the podcast has made me a better gay because there's so much I've actually learned from researching and listening to Jordy's cases. And I actually talk about that a little bit in this episode. So here we go. Let's just kick it off.
Let's just jump right into it.
It was around 11 p.m. on July 29th, 2023. and O'Shea Sibley and 4 of his friends stopped at a Mobile gas station on Coney Island Avenue in Midwood, Brooklyn, to grab some gas and stretch their legs. The 5 friends were coming home after spending the day together at the beach, so the mood was light. So when a Beyoncé song came on, O'Shea happily started to show off his God-given talents and started voguing to the song to the delight of his friends. See, dancing was O'Shea's life. The 28-year-old had been training since the age of 12, and by just 14, he was offered a dance scholarship to the Philadelphia School of Dance Arts and was working as a professional dancer and choreographer at this time. All of his friends would say it wasn't uncommon for him to just break into dance in public. Dancing was something he loved, he was proud of, and a way to express himself to others. But as O'Shea was dancing, 3 men exited the gas station and started hurling homophobic and anti-black slurs at O'Shea and his friends, and telling them to stop dancing here. We are Muslim. Get that gay shit out of here. O'Shea attempted to defuse the situation, and he and his friends responded saying, "You don't know us. We're just having a good time and enjoying our lives. It's all about respect. We're allowed to be here just like you."
Period.
I can already feel the emotions coming on.
And I actually also, I have heard of this case. I remember when it first happened. It was all over Reddit and social media. So it is a rough one, I remember. And it was very sad. And it's one of those things that just shows you that despite a lot of freedoms we have gained in the last, since Stonewall, it's still very dangerous to be openly queer in America.
So all of this was caught on a gas station surveillance camera. The cameras show O'Shea and his friends still in their beach clothes and the 3 men coming out to confront them for dancing. The 2 groups exchange the aforementioned words, and then O'Shea and his friends walk away, and 2 of the men that he confronted did so as well. But the 3rd man stayed behind, recording on his phone while he continued to antagonize the group with hateful remarks. The cameras then show O'Shea and 2 of his friends returning to confront the man who had stayed behind to continue to berate them. The man then walks toward the sidewalk and out of frame, with O'Shea following him out of frame. The video then shows the 2 reappear as O'Shea rushes toward the man, who darts around him, and then both disappear from view again. A moment later, O'Shea walks backwards into the frame, checking his side, and then collapses to the sidewalk. What the camera did not catch was as the 2 stepped out of frame, the man reached into his pocket, producing a knife, and stabbed O'Shea on the side of his chest, puncturing his heart. O'Shea was pronounced dead at Mema Mendez Hospital a short time later. Dead at 28 because he dared to dance in public as a proud, gay, black man. Now, before I go on with this case, I'm going to take some time and tell you a little bit more about O'Shea Sibley and about voguing, because you'll see why this type of dance is especially poignant in this case. And like always, here at Beers with Queers, we like to cover history that is specifically queer-related, not to just, as I like to tell myself, to become a better gay, because I do feel like through everything I've learned through researching and presenting for this podcast, I really have personally grown, but also to present it for the first time to some of our straight listeners. Because I believe that the more you come to understand other groups of people and what they have to go through and what they're going through now, you become more understanding, empathetic, and accepting.
And that's one of the big reasons for the podcast, because we also do have a lot of straight listeners that are like, I didn't know this. Like, I love listening to the podcast because I'm learning so much. And so I can't describe how giddy that makes me. And also a lot of it we're learning for the first time too. And so I love the fact that we can act as a sort of little time capsule of queer history.
Yeah, one of my best friends and my workout partner, who, if you've listened to one of the episodes, accidentally outed me at the gym because of the podcast. He's always listening to the podcast, and he'll come in and just ask like 50 questions after the episode's over. Like, he's very fascinated about gay culture and history. And then he's always like, I didn't really know you guys had to go through that. And I'm like, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of things haven't changed in a very long time. A lot of things have. We're getting there.
Slow progress, but I guess baby steps.
And, back to the understanding, empathetic, and accepting, I call it the I have a gay cousin, uncle, or aunt, and they're pretty cool rule. And most gay people out there will get the understanding and the humor of that statement. But what it boils down to is once straight people get to actually know someone who's openly gay, many of them see that we're just humans, just like them, trying to live our life the best we can, and that being gay isn't really that big of a dividing factor. And I say many, unfortunately, not all.
Yeah, and that's another thing, too. I think it's really important to get queer information out there. Is because for a lot, not all, of course, some people are just bigoted, homophobic, and they're just trash human beings. But I also think there is a level of ignorance to a lot of straight people who probably aren't around queer people that they know of that are openly queer. And I say that as a prime example, a lot of that in like my family, because I come from a very, very small mountain town in West Virginia. And a lot I grew up like hearing like, oh, the gay people, they want to take away marriage and do this and like this. It's because that's what they grew up hearing. And then as I got older and the more open I was and then other people were, they realized it's like, oh, I mean, that's just a part of who they are. But like now that I know they're like a hard worker, they're a good person, and they're actually now very much like, people have a right to do what they want. All I know is they are a good human being and they deserve to be happy. And so I do think for a lot of people out there, it is just ignorance to the fact that they're not exposed to it. So,
and ignorance does not mean stupid. It means not knowing.
Like I'm ignorant to a subject, like I'm not exposed to it. And it's not that, it's being open to learning is how we grow and continue to advance in queer rights and the rights of especially Black queer people and Black trans people, especially in this day and age.
O'Shea Sibley was born on September 1st, 1994 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to Onetha Sibley and Jake Kelly. He went to school in Philadelphia, where he attended Girard College Mastery Charter for High School and Temple University. As I said earlier, dance was always a huge part of O'Shea's life. He began training and dancing at the age of 12 under the tutelage of Clyde Evans Jr. in the hip-hop dance genre. By age 14, he was offered a dance scholarship to the Philadelphia School of Dance Arts. This is where he began his love for ballet and jazz under the studies of Debbie Manning St. Charles. By the age of 16, he was accepted into the Philadelphia Dance Company, an internationally recognized modern dance company. It is here where O'Shea would broaden his horizons in dance and strengthen his techniques. Later, he was a core member and choreographer for the Excel Dance Studios and Kamar Jules' personal dance captain on all of his theater projects. And just so you know a better idea of the type of shows that O'Shea was involved with, I'm going to have Jordy here read a quick excerpt from Kamar Jules' bio.
Kamar Jewel is a Black queer director and choreographer who draws inspiration from the ballroom scene and his Caribbean upbringing. Kamar revamps classic stories by having them reflect the people in today's society. Particularly, he is passionate about showcasing the magic of Blackness, queerness, and their intersection through theater, music, and dance. Kamar believes that great stories teach the best lessons, and those stories should have everyone reflected in them. In addition to creating art, Kamar is also a very passionate educator and community leader. He has taught workshops and masterclasses on dance, theater, and Black queer history at various community centers, as well as Temple University, NYU, the Franklin Institute, and many other prestigious institutions and universities around the world. Kamar is the founder and artistic director of Excel Dance Crew, a performance group that fuses voguing with other forms of dance and storytelling. At Yale, Kamar serves as a co-president of Folks, the Black affinity group for the School of Drama, founded by Angela Bassett in 1981, and we love Angela, an amazing actress. that focuses on creating networks, new art, and safe spaces for Black artists. Amazing. I kind of want to read more about that because that sounds like a very, very well educated, very good leader for the community. And also, yeah, I think that's very important. Like we were saying earlier, the importance of preserving history, reflecting it in today's society, and especially in this time right now in America, the history of Black and trans queer people. I think it's very important to educate and get as much information out there to, again, educate the public.
And now remember, O'Shea was Kamar's personal dance captain on all of his theater projects. So it goes without saying that this was not just about dancing. This was about so much more. O'Shea used dance to celebrate his heritage and his queer identity. Dance was an extension and a representation of who he was. So for someone to tell him, stop dancing here and get that gay shit out of here, they're basically telling him that you should cease to exist. In this, I believe O'Shea was perfectly justified to confront someone who is yelling racist and homophobic slurs at him and his friends, especially when his loved ones described him as being stern on everything he believed in and never afraid to be himself openly and out loud.
And you shouldn't have to be afraid. And especially, it's like if that were any other person other than a gay person just dancing around, they wouldn't have cared. And so, yeah, I'd be very upset too. It's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm minding my business. You mind yours.
Yeah, and I mean, freedom of speech is an amazing thing, but don't be surprised when it comes with consequences. So if you're going to go around saying racist and offensive things to people, don't be surprised when they actually stand up for themselves.
And that too, yeah. If you're going to start hurling slurs at people, they have a right to wear your butt out.
And again, O'Shea tried to defuse the situation and even walked away from it initially. He wasn't there for a fight, but one of the men just had to keep antagonizing the friends. And I personally know how hard it is to walk away or try to ignore someone who is doing something like this, especially if they say something triggering to people you care about.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going into story time here. Just this year at Shaky Knees Music Festival, me and some friends, including Jordy here, were walking the long trek out of the festival at the end of the night when a stranger started yelling at my friend for walking with a cane. I, as politely as I could muster, tried to explain to this man that she suffered from severe fibromyalgia while trying to stand between him and her to shield her from him. This was a very large man screaming at her, and that she was faking it, and she was just walking with a cane to get attention. And I mean, this is out of the blue. We were shocked. It soon became clear that he wasn't going to listen, so we tried to ignore him as we made our way the half-mile stretch to get out of the festival grounds. My friend was in a lot of pain by this time, and so we were moving very slowly, and was basically trapped by this man as he followed us the whole way, screaming at her, and even a few times trying to grab her cane away from her as we walked, which I blocked him, and I let him know that that was a very bad idea for him. The whole time I am fuming, but I'm not wanting to escalate things further, and I'm trying to ignore him while protecting my friend. But then he said something, and at the time, I don't even recall what it was that he said, but I just became enraged, and I confronted him immediately. And luckily, there was people around us, and they started realizing we don't know this guy. He's just like randomly attacking us. And so people started to step in. A group of girls surrounded my friend and shielded her and started to walk her out as me and this man confronted each other.
And our friend is also a queer person of color, so...
And me and this guy are like one step away from a fight. Like, Jordy is like, are you about to fight? And I'm like, I'm going to if I have to. I don't want to, but I will throw down if I have to. And so we're arguing with each other. And luckily, other people around started being like, hey, man, you're crazy. What are you saying? And he started like arguing with everybody around us. Like he's yelling at everybody, like slurs and everything like that. And so we take this time to like get our friend out of there to safety and out of the situation. When we get back to the hotel room, I was still fuming. Like I was so angry. And we started going over what had just happened. I had been going over it in my head constantly the whole time. Because I'm like, this came out of nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. And then I said, I don't even know what he said that triggered me so bad that I confronted him. And like Jordy actually got just a snippet of video because his phone died as he was doing it. So you see me whirl on this guy, like literally spin around and just start going after him. So I look like the bad guy in it. And I was like, I don't even remember what it was that he said that literally triggered me. And I just went into a rage. And then that's when my friend told me he called me a black bitch. And you just flipped out. And I honestly couldn't remember the specifics. I just knew that he had finally said something that had triggered that response. It was almost like an out-of-body experience for a minute. And when I came back into it, we were in a full-on confrontation. I bring that up just because I know what it feels like to be out with your friends, having a good time, when some random person just starts something and everything turns ugly. And everyone, of course, says, take the high road and just ignore them. And normally I can turn the other cheek, especially if it's directed at me. If it's directed at me, I can easily do that. People can say whatever mean stuff they like about me, and it honestly doesn't bother me. But, and this is a big but, if they do the same thing to one of my friends or even a stranger where I feel that they're being bullied, I lose my shit. It instantly triggers me, and it's just one of those things. My friends call it my paladin nature because I'm a shield to the bad stuff for them and anyone that I believe is being treated unjustly. A guy tried to pick a fight with Jordy once at a club, and out of the blue, I was actually on the other side of the club dancing, and Jordy just looks at this guy and he's like, hey man, I don't think you understand. You're not picking a fight with me. You're picking a fight with him. And of course, at that time, I just spin around and I'm like, what's going on? And from everything I've read of O'Shea Sibley, he had that same paladin spirit. He stood up for what he thought was right, and he was outspoken on what he thought was wrong, especially when it came to his friends. So this story hits very close to home for me. This could have easily been me on numerous times in my life. And although I can't speak for O'Shea, I do have a feeling that he would think the same way when I say it's something I wouldn't actually change about myself. So shifting gears again, I'm going to give you a little bit of a queer history lesson on the ballroom scene and voguing.
Which may be familiar to some of you if you've seen Paris is Burning, which I think is a lot of queer people's introduction to voguing. It's actually, I think, what popularized it. And the Brian Murphy show, Pose, is about queer ballroom. So I'm excited to do a little deep dive.
And O'Shea was part of an all-queer dance group on a video project called Vogue for #Black Lives Matter, and also did shows that celebrated the ballroom scene. So now, without going too deep, because I know Jordy knows all about this, give me a very brief description of what you consider the ballroom scene, and because I'm going to go in depth with it. So I just want to hear your take on it.
Well, also, I don't want to say this matter-of-factly and then look like I don't know what I'm talking about. Most of what I know is from Paris is Burning, Pose, and like Drag Race and some of the other stuff that I've watched and read over the years. The ballroom scene really originated with queer, black, and trans people in the late 1800s, early 1900s, I think in New York. But it's really they would get together, they would put on lavish costumes, they would have categories, and they would walk a ball, which is where they would walk down a runway. People would judge them, they would cheer them, and it's just a time to come together, be safe, celebrate queer art, celebrate a lot of Black and Latino queer people. That's the majority of the community, especially back in that day. And it's just to celebrate being queer and unapologetically you.
And I think that it's very important in this case in particular that you understand what voguing represents, because it adds a whole new layer to this story in the fact that O'Shea was targeted specifically for voguing. The roots of the ballroom culture can be traced back to the drag balls of the late 1800s, where men would dress in elaborate gowns and compete in categories like best gown or most beautiful. These events, often held in secret, provided a space for gender expression and community building at a time when homosexuality was criminalized and stigmatized. However, these early balls were often segregated, with white performers holding more prominent positions. In the early to mid-1900s, as the Harlem Renaissance flourished, a distinct ballroom scene began to emerge within the Black and Latino LGBTQ+ community. This era saw the rise of houses, which is where chosen families or social groups led by a house mother or father. These houses provided support, guidance, and a sense of belonging to young queer people, many of whom have been rejected their entire lives, even by their biological families. The balls themselves became more structured, with categories expanding beyond appearance to include performance-based categories. The mid-20th century also saw increased challenges for the LGBTQ+ community, with police raids on gay bars and continued social stigma. In this context, the ballroom scene took on an even greater significance as a space of resistance and self-affirmation. The balls became a platform to challenge societal norms, celebrate individuality, and create a world where queer and transgender people of color could be their authentic selves. The late 20th century brought increased visibility to the ballroom culture with the 1999 documentary Paris is Burning, which offered a glimpse into the Harlem ballroom scene, bringing its unique culture and language to a wider audience. The exposure helped to popularize voguing and other aspects of ballroom culture, influencing mainstream fashion, music, and dance. And this is a big thing because Black and Latino transgender people who at this time did not have influence in the world. Like, you know, it was like one of those things, like, unfortunately, kind of like today, a lot of people would just rather pretend that those people didn't exist.
And especially back in like the mid like 50s, 60s and stuff like that, like even though gay bars were a thing and they were in secret, even though they were illegal, most of those gay bars were segregated. So drag queens weren't allowed, people of color weren't allowed, and so really balls were the queer people of color, their way of forming their own community and looking out and taking care of each other, and also providing a space for queer people of color to express themselves unapologetically. And I think that's what's so important about it. That's what's so special, and it holds such a unique and special place in so many people's hearts, is because it is, and I think continues to be, a very, very important part of queer history and just queer lives today.
Yeah, the big things to take away from why the ballroom culture was so important is, first and foremost, it created a safe place for LGBTQ plus people, especially people of color, to express themselves and find community in a world that often rejected them, offering them a sense of belonging and affirmation. And during the height of the AIDS crisis, the ballroom community was deeply affected, and balls became a space for mourning, remembrance, and activism. Today, the ballroom scene continues to be a platform for addressing issues such as discrimination, violence against transgender people, and access to health care. On the more fun side of things, you know all those fun words everyone's learning off watching RuPaul's Drag Race? Like shade, reading, and working it.
Because reading is what?
Fundamental. Those all originated from the ballroom scene.
Yep. Honestly, most of the queer slang that you use today, slay is another big one. It all can be traced back to ball culture.
And on to voguing, which is a highly stylized form of modern dance that originated in the queer ballroom scene in Harlem, New York around the 1960s. Voguing is typically performed to house music with a strong beat, and dancers synchronize their movements to the rhythm. The dance itself is characterized as having sharp, linear lines and angles, with dancers creating geometric shapes with their arms and legs. These linear movements create a sense of structure and control with intricate and expressive hand movements, adding detail and flair to the performance. And I'd say a lot of people have seen voguing. It's awesome to watch.
You know voguing now because of Madonna, who got it from ballroom culture. And I think it was after Paris is Burning, she took voguing and she released the song Vogue. And that kind of is what thrust it into the like mainstream. But yeah, I think we all know what a little voguing is.
And I mean, it's amazing to watch. So I'm like, you have this guy that's like a professional voguer and like just busting loose in a random parking lot. I would have been mesmerized. Like, I mean, I would have thought, even if I was like straight and whatever, I would think, wow, that is cool to watch.
That's called talent, and most people have to pay to see that, and you're getting it for free. So.
Literally. But when most people think of voguing, they think of the dancers holding dramatic poses, often striking a series of static positions as if they were being photographed, mimicking the poses of models in fashion magazines such as Vogue.
And if you don't know what voguing is, highly recommend you go on YouTube and look it up. Like, if you've never seen it, look it up. It is mesmerizing to watch, and I think it'll better help you visualize everything we're talking about right now.
And there are three main styles of voguing. Old way, which emphasizes line, symmetry, and precision with fluid transitions between poses. The new way, which features more flexibility and incorporates elements of contortion and gymnastics with complex hand movements and illusions. And Vogue femme, the most fluid and dramatic style incorporating elements of jazz, ballet, and modern dance with emphasis on femininity and expressiveness. But voguing was so much more than just a dance. It was a form of power and resistance against the oppressive forces of life. Finally, these marginalized groups were getting to create their own spaces with their own rules, offering them a sense of agency and control. It empowered queer, Black, and Latino individuals to express themselves authentically with confidence, grace, and power, reclaiming their narratives and challenging societal expectations of race, gender, and sexuality.
Period.
And O'Shea knew all of the history, like he's teaching it. He knew exactly what voguing stood for, and especially as a Black queer individual, he was literally doing shows to showcase voguing and what it means. Yet in 2023, 63 years after the Harlem Resistance and over 100 more years of progress towards ethnic and sexual equality, you still have some random person screaming at you at the top of your lungs, "Stop that gay shit and get out of here." And how sad is that? How sad is it that in today, with all the strides and the progress of countless people before us who have suffered and persevered to bring us peace, equality, and understanding, that we still live in a world where just dancing and being yourself can elicit hate, where dancing and being yourself can get you killed.
And I think that just makes it even more sad is the fact that it's people out enjoying their day. Someone is doing something they love. They're just expressing themselves. They're so happy. It's just one of those little things, when you're having a really good day, you're with friends, people you love, and you're doing what you love, which is just dancing to one of your favorite songs. And so it's that fact that it's like you are happy with life. You're making the most of your day. You're enjoying yourself and your company, the people around you. And the fact that someone can see that, and instead of being happy that you're happy, like, oh, those people are having a good time, they get filled with rage and hate. And they're like, how can I ruin that for you? How can I ruin someone else's happiness to the point where you murder them? So it's just one of those things that makes it even another layer of tragedy, because it's just, they were just enjoying life and not hurting anybody.
And you're probably thinking that this is some cranky old racist guy that killed O'Shea Sibley, someone who's out of touch with the times, someone who didn't grow up in a time where equality and understanding was being taught and embraced by so many. Jordy, I'm going to have you read the statement by the district attorney when they indicted O'Shea's killer.
Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez today announced that a 17-year-old Brooklyn man has been indicted for murder as a hate crime and related charges for allegedly stabbing and killing dancer and choreographer O'Shea Sibley at a Midwood gas station after hurling homophobic and anti-black slurs. District Attorney Gonzalez says, quote, O'Shea came to New York to follow his dream and brighten our city with his light. We honor his life, celebrate his courage, and commit to hold accountable the individual allegedly responsible for this horrific murder. O'Shea and his friends were targeted for being themselves, dancing joyfully, and harming no one. There is no tolerance for hate in Brooklyn, where we value our diversity, inclusion, and the freedom to be who we are.
The district attorney identified the defendant as Dmitry Popov, 17, of Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. He was arraigned before Brooklyn Supreme Court Justice Craig Walker on the indictment in which he was charged with second-degree murder as a hate crime, first-degree manslaughter as a hate crime, fourth-degree criminal possession of a weapon and related counts. Dmitry Popov is a high school senior, and he was born in the U.S. to a family of Russian origin. His attorney described him as a level-headed teen who holds 2 jobs and is a good Christian boy. Not a Muslim, as Popov had claimed the night of the murder, actually accusing the other group of dancing and being offensive to their religion. As of now, there's been no verdict in the case. Dmitry Popov is being held without bail at a juvenile facility in Brooklyn, and his defense has indicated possible self-defense arguments. After O'Shea's death, hundreds of people gathered at the Mobile gas station where he was killed and held a vigil in his honor titled Vogue as an Act of Resistance. It featured individuals who vogued in Sibley's memory. Beyoncé, the artist whose music O'Shea and his friends were playing at the time of the incident, paid tribute to O'Shea on her website, which featured the phrase, "Rest in power, O'Shea Sibley." We'll be sure to share any news on the ongoing trial of Dmitry Popov as it becomes available. And that is the story of O'Shea Sibley, who died just being himself and dancing in public as a proud, queer, gay, black man.
And I think that was really good coverage of the case and a little history lesson on why voguing is so important, because I think that's something that can get lost in translation, and especially the more years pass, is eventually the story could become, oh, he was just killed because he was dancing. But then, it's a little bit more nuanced in that, like, if you boil it down, you can just say dancing, but there are so many layers to it and so much significance to that style of dance and what it means to so many, especially queer people of color. And so it's just so much more than just simple dancing. It is an act of resistance. It is an act of self-expression, self-love, and just an act of the fact that queer people are here. They're not going to be afraid to be themselves, and they're going to stand up and make sure that they were here, they were known. And so, yeah, I remember when that case happened last year, like the news broke. Again, very sad, completely senseless. And the fact that the person that did it, the attacker, was a teenager, still in high school, also shows that we have a long ways to go about how people raise their children.
Yeah, you would think that in today's times, equality, diversity.
Especially in Brooklyn. Like, of all places, like, that is one of the most diverse cities in America. So if this type of case happens there, you can only imagine what could happen in a very much smaller town.
Yeah, this isn't like some like backwoods place where I happen to live. I mean, this is Brooklyn, New York, and you would think that people have seen all races, all backgrounds. He was like, well, they were also scantily dressed because they were coming back from the beach and they had their beach clothes on. And that still, again, gives you no excuse to just start hurling hate at someone for them dancing. If you don't like it, you know what? You can walk away.
You can literally get in your car, and now their life is ruined too. So, and it's the fact, again, it's so
senseless. It's so sad.
There's no reason for it, no rhyme, no reason. And that's what makes it not just so sad, but also so terrifying, is the fact that people just enjoying their day, dancing, singing along to music. Like, I mean, we do that all the time. When it's been a good day, especially in the summer, a good song we love comes on, we'll dance, we'll sing in the car and stuff like that. So the fact that someone could see that and get to the point where they're filled with a murderous rage is just so scary to think about, that you can't even dance or Vogue without someone wanting to kill you for it.
Or even walk with a cane. Literally, she was walking with a cane because she has an issue, and someone pulled a stunt just like this. It could have ended. I think of it, and I'm like, this could have possibly, if that guy had a weapon, could have ended just as badly, and it was like, we done nothing to put ourselves in this situation. No one was doing anything wrong for him to even attack us for. So it's just be safe out there. I mean, it is 100%. Don't back down.
Stay dangerous out there.
Yeah, stay dangerous out there. But, like I said, just keep your eyes out and watch out for your friends and everything. This is such a sad and scary story.
It is. So very much watch out for each other, take care of each other, love each other. And also just, it's sad to say, but be alert, because it is a crazy world we are living in, especially currently. So with that, thank you so much, Brad, for doing our final Beers with Queers episode of 2024. We will see you guys in the new year in 2025. And until then, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a 5-star rating or review on iTunes or Spotify. Helps us out a lot, helps other people discover the podcast. And of course, we just love hearing from you guys. If you want to see photos from today's case, you can follow us on Instagram at Beers with Queers Pod, that's POD, or on Facebook at Beers with Queers, a true crime podcast. I'll probably also post some stuff on our socials about voguing, especially if you've not seen Paris is Burning. I'll post that. And just a little bit more queer history lessons, just so you can, if you haven't already, fully appreciate how colorful and how rich queer history is. And until next Monday, until 2025, stay dangerous out there, my friend.
Well, actually, I was just doing some math in my head, which I'm not actually good with, but this is not the last episode of 2024, because New Year's is actually on a Wednesday, week after next.
That is true.
We're not good with math here at Beers with Queers, but we love you, and we want you to have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll be back with one more episode before the new year. So
see you back next week before 2025. So we'll see you in the new year, but we'll also see you back in 2024 one more time. So until then, stay dangerous out there, and I'll learn how to count.
See you soon.
See you. Bye.